Prepare yourself.
Oh yeah, we're off to a strong start already. I like to think this is the start of the really good characters, the start of the characters who I absolutely love to play as. Actually, to be honest, the following 16 characters are very hard for me to split personally, but I have done on a number of characteristics. The classic case is what we have here, Ike. In the early stages of playing Brawl, I gravitated towards characters I knew well. That consisted of Link, Mario, maybe a bit of Donkey Kong, and some characters that will be appearing later down the line. Before long, I decided to have a crack at playing as Ike because, you know, it kinda looked like a good idea. I'd seen little snippets of gameplay and I got past the point in Subspace Emissary where he comes along and steals the show. By the time I got to use him, I was hooked. In layman's terms, Ike is basically a more manageable version of Ganondorf for me. You get that intense surge of power without the molasses speed that heavily hinders Ganondorf. I mean, Ike is by no means a fast character, but he's not that slow either. Ike is an absolute beast. The guy is so strong that he holds his two-handed broadsword with one hand, because only scrubs use two hands. So you get that sense that you're in control of a seriously burly character, and it makes for some proper entertainment. But unfortunately it's not all happy days of Ike. I mean, yes, most of the time he's so powerful that I don't really care about anything else, but against better players his speed does show him up from time to time. And my god, while his third jump is flashy as hell, he throws his goddamn sword in the air. It's more of a death or glory move, and most of the time for me, it's death. But at least I looked good while doing it. Now all of this is nice and stuff, but I don't really care about lumbering around and swinging that massive sword and launching people off the screen. I play Ike for his freaking final smash. You know, there's two ways to remove a tooth. There's the King Dedede way, where you gradually knock it about and hope that it falls out. And then there's the Ike way, where you grab a very big shiny hammer with lights and sirens on it and give it a proper whack. Ike's final smash might not be the most effective or the most viable in a competitive scenario, but you will never tire of launching your opponent in the air and just kind of sitting back and watching the fireworks. Please note, don't use a hammer when removing a tooth. That's a bad idea. Let's be brutal here, there's only so much you can do with transferring a Pokemon to Smash Bros. That's why Pokemon Training was such a good idea, a character based on the idea of rotating your Pokemon and keeping an eye on their stamina. So if Nintendo are to add more Pokemon in the 4th Smash Bros game, they need to follow the path set by Pokemon Trainer and more importantly, Lucario. Do you know how easy it would have been for Nintendo and HAL to make Lucario a direct copy-paste of Mewtwo? While he didn't exactly replace Mewtwo, Mewtwo was planned to be in Brawl but was removed for unknown reasons, you can see the similarities between the two. They are both floaty, powerful characters that use darkness as their method of attacking, and they share the same standard special attack. But that's where the similarities end, as Nintendo brought in all of Lucario's special abilities. The main benefit to Lucario is his aura. As you take damage, Lucario's aura grows stronger and stronger, meaning that as you fight another character, you're more likely to come out on top due to the fact that you're constantly getting stronger as you take damage. Once you get past 167%, Lucario is as powerful as he can be, and you can pull off some truly frightening moves on your opponents. The strategy of Lucario comes down to risk versus reward. If you take all that damage, you're obviously going to be easier to KO, especially with just how floaty he is. But if you land some good enough smash attacks, you're going to be racking up the damage on your opponents very quickly. He's slightly lower down due to his surprisingly ineffective final smash. The first time I experienced it, I was on the receiving end and I got completely annihilated. It reaches all the way down the screen and holds you in place as this number gets very large very quickly. I mean, what exactly can you do to combat this? Well, you can just jump away from it. Really easy if you have a character with lots of jumps.
Okay.
So let's just quickly go back to the N64 Smash Bros. The default characters are the type you'd usually expect: Mario, Link, Samus, Pikachu, trying to cover as many famous franchises as possible. But if you hung around long enough, you would start unlocking a couple of more obscure characters. Luigi and Jigglypuff were there if you were willing to put in the effort, But if you were good enough at the one player mode, you unlocked a little guy from a place called Eagle Land by the name of Ness. Ness caught a number of players off guard simply by being in the game. Many people who played Smash 64 had no idea who he was and what series he came from, but hey, he's a new character, might as well check him out. And I gotta say, Ness quickly became a favourite for me. I played Melee before Smash 64, so I didn't get that confusion when I saw he was in the character roster, but I certainly didn't recognise the guy. But I was intrigued and I took him for a spin. He worked out to be a very different character to the ones I usually played, and I think I preferred it that way. Being a user of magic stuff, sorry, I haven't played a lot of Earthbound or Mother 3. He doesn't have to rely on physical attacks and instead has a bundle of powerful and very versatile special attacks. I never really found a use for PK Flash, but PK Fire and PK Thunder can be used to do the odd bit of chip damage and just be really annoying. PK Thunder can even be used as a third jump, which works very well considering that Ness lacks a conventional third jump. The transition from Smash 64 to Melee saw a big nerf in his setup, but he was given a little bit of improvement when he was brought back for Brawl. There's a lot of teeny tiny upgrades to individual moves, but the most notable, and I'll admit, the most fun, is his final smash. Yes, it really does come down to click and watch the show unfold, but it's as unpredictable as Ness himself. It's avoidable on flat ground, but on stages with limited space, it's a truly potent weapon.
You're not ready yet!
You know what game I really need to get? Kid Icarus Uprising. That game looks fun. So on that note, let's talk about Pitt. Of all the characters I was glad to see in Brawl, of all the characters that were introduced or brought back or whatever, the biggest smile of the whole E3 trailer was seeing Pitt and the word newcomer just above his name. Because believe it or not, I had actually played Kid Icarus before even knowing about Pitt being in Brawl, and a little light came on in the back of my head when I saw his design. Just thinking, no, they wouldn't! So it brought back a long and sadly lost Nintendo mascot from the 80s, and thank God for that. Pitt as a character is probably the single most mobile character in the series, and that is no understatement to any degree. He's a character with multiple jumps as a result of these little ditties, but his third jump move is actually just a move that allows him to keep on jumping for 3 more seconds if he isn't hit. It means you can come back from some severely sticky situations and just keep on staying alive. Pitt's not much of a godly powerful heavyweight, but he has some moves that can frustrate and do a great deal of damage over time. He's got the combos to dish out the damage very quickly, and he's even got an almost stupidly good shield, because it's an actual shield that protects him from about 80% of the attacks in the game. Pitt could even be considered overpowered by the more naive players, but there are a couple of significant problems. The lack of power does become a problem when you can't get in there and use those combos, and his weight, or his lack of it, does make him an easy character to KO. But primarily, the biggest fault once again comes with the final smash. I mean, it's functional I guess, but not as potent as others. It does allow you to attack when it's still active, but you're relying on your opponents being hurt before you use it. And that's on the strength that I'm good at Brawl, and frankly, the least said about that, the better. You know, the word unique is tossed about quite a lot these days, so what really is unique? Well, I'll tell you, with the single most unique character in the entire Smash Bros franchise, Kirby. I know it probably seemed quite obvious to put Kirby into the Smash Bros series, but it fits so well that it's virtually uncanny. I mean, if there was a character with Kirby's traits that was made specifically for Smash Bros, you'd understand it perfectly. Kirby's copy ability is one of the single best moves in the game, simply because it can give you so many different attacks, making him the most diverse character in the series. It even opens up a window for KOing an opponent with one of their own moves, which is just ludicrously satisfying. In addition, Kirby's another floaty character with 500 million jumps, and yet he still has an up B third jump just in case you somehow can't get back on the stage. And if you can get some height in your opponent, you can just drop a rock on them and, you know, just sit there and chill out for a bit. While Kirby isn't the strongest character in the series, or the most mobile, or the quickest, or really the best in any department, He's arguably one of the most fun to play as, with so many different ways to use him. Often you'll get the most out of him if you're fighting characters who have very good special moves, so you can steal them off them. If you give Ganon's Warlock Punch to Kirby, well, shit son. I have been through this before, but if you're going to make a clone of a character, it helps and kind of makes sense if you change up the moveset a bit, so that playing as it doesn't become completely redundant. Link and Young Link are unfortunately too similar for Young Link to be worth any real moments of your time, which might be why he was removed for Super Smash Bros. Brawl. In his place was someone much, much better. A little character by the name of Toon Link. So maybe you've been playing Link for a while in Brawl and you wanted a change. You've got to the end of Subspace Emissary and have started unlocking the hidden characters, and then boom, Toon Link comes along, and as a massive, mahoosive fan of Wind Waker, I kinda plotzed. I managed to avoid spoilers, so there was a genuine shock when Toon Link turned up, and I immediately lost all interest in Subspace Emissary. Toon Link is the fast, mobile, devastatingly powerful version of regular Link. I'm pretty sure there are some downsides to using Toon Link, but I couldn't give a shit. Toon Link is like Link's superior brother, and I'm yet to meet someone who prefers Link over his cartoony counterpart. Prove me wrong, internet, you've done it before. The question now is, what's the difference between Toon Link and Young Link? Well, Young Link is just Link from Ocarina of Time, while Toon Link is from Wind Waker. And while that may sound like I'm stating the obvious because it sort of is, you see the added cartooniness come through in more ways than one. Other than the reskins of the weapons and the awesome explosion effect for the bombs, lifted straight from Wind Waker, Toon Link attacks a little bit more sporadically and unpredictably than regular Link, and seems to show off his personality just a little bit more effectively, especially when you compare their taunts. To put it bluntly, Toon Link is just far, far more enjoyable to play as, to the point where there's not even any competition between Toon Link and normal Link. Hey, they even have the same flashy final smash.